Welcome everybody, ladies and gentlemen, from an absolutely wet Hampshire, so not too good down this way. I hope it's better where you are. As I said, I'm Audit Director for Fair Account. We do about 250 between us for the south and southwest of England. Each year there are various things that crop up that the external auditor would like to have verified and done for the following year. We have a session with them, usually a debrief in about October, November, and we resolve those issues, hopefully to give advice to our clients to get it right for next time round. Just to give you a small idea for this year, hopefully you've pretty well all cleared your AGARs for this year and had them back. I know some are still waiting, so I hope it's good news. It's a nil report when it comes back. The first one is timing is everything. You have the notice of public rights that you have to issue out each year. One thing that is cropping up occasionally is that on there are an ABC of dates. A is the date of announcement of the notice. B and C set the parameters for the 30 days that you have to give to your parishioners to come forward with any views or comments or look at your records. The crucial thing is that A has to be at least 24 hours before B. Therefore, otherwise, if you don't do it that way, they would say you're only giving your parishioners 29 days. I know it's a small point, but they're hot on it. So let's get that one right. The next one is order matters. When you come to do your minutes for the governance on the AGAR and your accounting sheet, which are sheets 1 and 2, always make sure that you minute the governance one first. So depending on whether you have Roman numerals or A's and B's or 0.12, always make sure the governance one is done first, and then secondly, the accounting one. So you minute them in the correct order. The next thing is there was an interesting thing last year when BDO won the contract back to do the external audit for the next 5 years for about 5 counties. They've introduced something to do with, it's the equivalent, I suppose, of a sort of declaration of interests that you'd have at a meeting with your councillors. And it's really to say, any of the staff or do any of the councillors know anybody that works for BDO at Southampton, where their headquarters is? I think it's just they've had some problems in the past with Carillion and so on and taken a battering over that. So I think they're keen to be very transparent and above board. So that's something that you may have seen this year, which you hadn't previously, but could be something that PKF and Mazars and Moores bring in as well. I'm not sure, but certainly down in our area, those are certainly coming through. The next one is to do with trust funds. Hopefully they've made it a little easier this year. I know there's been a lot of problems the last 2 years with clarity of do you tick yes, no, or not applicable. Hopefully this year it was very clear, plain. We've been on to them for at least 2 years to get it right. I think this year they did get it right. So hopefully that's something just to look out for. And if you have got a trust fund, just remember, don't include any figures from it on your AGAR totals. The next one is occasionally a council will go from receipts and payments into an income and expenditure basis, where for 3 consecutive years they're over the 200,000. And again, that's something that they're keen to look at. You can't just keep going forward with the receipts and payments. You have to do the conversion. But normally ones like Scribe, RBS, there are other brands available, will help you through that process to get you right. But just remember that as soon as you go over that limit for the 3 years, you have to convert into the income and expenditure, and then probably you'll be in it from then on. The next thing is to do with assets. I know that's something that John's very got close to his heart at the moment with the new asset register system coming out from Scribe. But the main thing with that is keep it updated. Crucial thing is add stuff to the inventory as you go, put it on your register, make sure it's insured, because sometimes they will ask for a copy of your insurance policy and a copy of your asset register, and they'll be expecting to see certain particularly larger items like play areas, new laptops, if you've got a whole new system, if you're a town council coming in, they want to see it on there and they want to see that you're covering it for insurance. Secondly, it's quite useful to do an annual check of your so-called assets, because sometimes you don't have them anymore, particularly if you haven't done it for a while, and you may be paying a premium on your insurance for items you no longer have, Secondly, you can delete those, leaving the item on there, but say sold or given away or whatever, but just so that it's there for people to see, totally transparent. And the good thing with that is that if you've got serial numbers, which most electrical products have, particularly IT systems, particularly outside equipment for your groundsmen, rangers, that type of thing, they will always have a plate on there with a serial number. The insurance company like that because obviously if you've got 12 IT items and one gets stolen, how do you know which one it is when it's gone? Or if it goes up in smoke, you can't go back and look at the serial number. And sometimes they can be a little picky on if they're going to give you the money back, which is quite crucial from your point of view. The next thing is to do with VAT. Again, they're pretty hot on if you don't make your claims. What I would say there is it's obviously in your interest to do it because it's very good for your cash flow. You get the money in a lot quicker. The larger councils tend to do it monthly or quarterly. Even if you're a small one, make sure you do it regularly, annually, because you get that money and it's your money. It can come back in, and sometimes it can help towards perhaps a shortage for a project you're wanting to do. So make sure you get your VAT claims in, get them back. The other thing just to mention there is there's been a drive with the government gateway to get these new numbered accounts in for everybody so that to try and log your financial year into the system, because some councils got out of kilter and they were, say, putting in May for the equivalent of quarter 1. So there was 1 quarter from a previous year and 2 in the following year. So if you go through the government gateway, you can rearrange your financial year so you do it either quarterly or annually, but it is the full financial year. So there's no overlap and it's not going to trip you up in any shape or form. Again, they're quite hot on those sorts of things. The next thing is to do with insurance cover, as we mentioned earlier. Make sure that when you buy something, if it is a new item, make sure it's covered in there. Even if it's just street furniture, they'll just uplift that by the value of whatever you've added to the system. Some give a little more detail and they'll say 50 benches or whatever, but normally it's encased within an overall total. The next thing I was going to say is cropped up in 2 or 3 occasions this year. The external auditor always has what they call a thematic approach to this. On your governance sheets, there are 10 items which you are ticking yes or no to, in most cases, hopefully yes. And obviously on the internal auditors one, there is a similar thing saying, are they doing this correctly? Are they doing it at all? So we have to tick off, you have to tick off. Now, what they tend to do is pick one of those each year for the 5% candidates, the ones that the computer selects as having some extra documents to be produced, or indeed for the intermediate audits, that's the really big councils that have this process every year. So that theme is then chosen, and this year it seems to be about internal audit and internal controls. Have you got an internal control system documented for the bigger councils? Secondly, and this is a crucial one, this has happened on several this year, have you actually confirmed in your minutes that who your internal auditor is for the financial year you're in? So you're in 24-25 now. Have you already minuted that, in our case, Fair Account is your auditor for this year? They seem to want it each year. Even if there is, say, a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract, they want it put in each year. I know a lot of clerks have a May meeting agenda where they put a lot of items in. They update, say, standing orders, financial regs. Just add it in there as a single one-liner just to say who your auditor is. Obviously, it's even more crucial when you have a change of auditor because you want to say ABC Limited is going to be our auditor for this year. And the other thing to remember, and again, they're hot on this, particularly if you are changing, is that you have a letter of engagement with your internal auditor. This basically is where you and they, probably you've gone through a tendering process with 2 or 3 auditors coming in quoting, you selected the one you want, that gets minuted, which one's won the contract. You also say to them, right, that's the price that we're going to pay for the audit. What we want is these items checked. and in with the frequency of audit. It may be that if you're a bigger council, you might want a half year, a 3/4, and an end of year one, or you might want 4/4 done with an AGAR one at the end. This sets the scene for that. It gives the frequency of the audit, the areas you want covered. In most cases, you would simply say you want it audited as per the practitioner's guide, which is updated each year. That's fine. But if there are specific things to your council that say other councils don't have, like joint cemetery boards or something like that, you might just want to add that into the remit that you're giving to your internal auditor. And then when that letter goes out with your letterhead on, it sets the clarity for the 3-year contract, the 5-year contract, or indeed a rolling contract, as I call it, where you have the same auditor each year, but you simply say each year, yes, we're minuting, we want you to be it. I've said, yes, we're happy to continue. You said, we want you to continue. It's all done. If you want to change, you then go through the tender process, as we already mentioned, and do it that way round. So that's quite a good tip with that one. Another little one that's cropped up this year is, and it's a fairly obvious one if you think about it, when you purchase new equipment, assets, etc., could be a new play area and so on, obviously your assets in box 9 will go up by the equivalent amount. Obviously, maybe several purchases. But also, of course, your other payments in box 6 will have gone up. So what's happening is sometimes the clerk, when they do their variance reports on each of the rows, they're forgetting to say, oh yes, we're giving the variance in box 9 as these 3 new items totaling 10,000 or something. But when they do the explanation for box 6, they're not always saying, 10,000 was assets and other bits and pieces as well. So that again is something where they're looking to make sure that you know where your variances are coming from. And you're not just fobbing them off by adding figures together and sort of calling it some kind of miscellaneous heading, if you like. So that's quite a good way of doing it. But I would say those are the crucial ones this year. Good luck for the forthcoming year, 24-25. Obviously, we will be having this debrief with them coming up in probably a month or two's time. And obviously, we can then pass that information back through, John, back to you as and when we have it. But hopefully that's been of some help to you for at least 24-25 year.